Hi everyone, welcome back to Bible in a Year. My name is Natalie and today we are starting day 21. I hope everybody's doing well today and I'm so glad you're here. We are going to be reading out of Genesis 23, then Nehemiah 13, and Luke chapter 10, but only verses 25 through 41 today. And then we'll close it out with Psalm 18, but only verses 1 through 6. So happy you're here. Let's start with Genesis 23. Sarah lived 127 years. This was the length of Sarah's life. Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, also known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Abraham rose up from before his dead and spoke to the children of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a foreigner living with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The children of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in the best of our tombs. None of us will withhold from you his tomb. Bury your dead. Abraham rose up and bowed himself to the people of the land, to the children of Heth. He talked with them, saying, If you agree that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Zohar, that he may sell me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of his field. For the full price, let him sell it to me among you as a possession for a burial place. Now Ephron was sitting in the middle of the children of Heth. Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the children of Heth, even of all who went in at the gate of a city, saying, No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of the children of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land. He spoke to Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if you will please hear me, I will give you the price of the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My lord, listen to me. What is a piece of land worth? 400 shekels of silver between me and you? Therefore, bury your dead. Abraham listened to Ephron. Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver which he had named in the hearing of the children of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, according to the current merchant standards. So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field, the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field that were in all of its borders, were deeded to Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of the city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the children of Heth as a possession for a burial place. All right. I feel sad for Sarah. What a long life she had. And now moving on to Nehemiah 13. On that day they read in the book of Moses in the hearing of the people, and it was found written in it that an Ammonite and a Moabite should not enter into the assembly of God forever, because they didn't meet the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them to curse them. However, our God turned the curse into a blessing. It came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated all the mixed multitude from Israel. Now before this, Eliashib the priest, who was appointed over the rooms of the house of our God, being allied to Tobiah, had prepared for him a great room, where before they laid the meal offerings, the frankincense, the vessels, and the tithes of the grain, the new wine, and the oil, which was given by the commandment of the Levites, the singers, and the gatekeepers, and the wave offerings for the priests. But in all this I was not at Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, I went to the king, and after some days I asked leave of the king, and I came to Jerusalem, and understood the evil that Eliashib had done for Tobiah, in preparing him a room in the courts of God's house. It grieved me severely. Therefore I threw all Tobiah's household stuff out of the room. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the rooms. I brought into them the vessels of God's house with the meal offerings and the frankincense again. I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given to them, so that the Levites and the singers who did the work had each fled to his field. Then I contended with the rulers and said, "Why is God's house forsaken?" I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then all Judah brought the tithe of the grain and the new wine and the oil to the treasuries. I made treasurers over the treasuries Shelemiah the priest and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites Pedaiah, and next to them was Hanan the son of Zakur, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their business was to distribute to their brothers. Remember me, my God, concerning this, and don't wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for its observances. In those days I saw some men treading wine presses on the Sabbath in Judah, bringing in sheaves and loading donkeys with wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day in which they sold food. Some men of Tyre also lived there, who brought in fish and all kinds of wares, and sold on the Sabbath to the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said to them, "What evil thing is this that you do, and profane the Sabbath day? Didn't your fathers do this? And didn't our God bring all this evil on us and on the city? Yet you bring more wrath on Israel by profaning the Sabbath." It came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the doors should be shut, and commanded that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. I set some of my servants over the gates, so that no burden should be brought in on the Sabbath day. So the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares camped outside of Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them and said to them, "Why do you stay around the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you." From that time on, they didn't come on the Sabbath. I commanded the Levites that they should purify themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember this also, my God, and spare me according to the greatness of your loving kindness. In those days I also saw the Jews who had married women of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, and their children spoke half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. I contended with them, cursed them, struck certain of them, plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, "You shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor take their daughters for your sons, or for yourselves." Didn't Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations there was no king like him, and he was so loved by his God, and God made him king all over Israel. Nevertheless, foreign women caused even him to sin. Shall we then listen to you to do all this great evil, to trespass against our God and marrying foreign women? One of the sons of Jehoiada, the son of Eliashib, the high priest, was son-in-law to Sanballat, the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me. Remember them, my God, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and of the Levites. Thus I cleansed them from all foreigners and appointed duties for the priests and for the Levites, every one in his work, and for the wood offering at the appointed times, and for the first fruits. Remember, my God, for good. And that concludes the book of Nehemiah. So the two books that we have just finished, it was Micah and Nehemiah. Was not Micah. I'm sorry. It was Ezra. So we have now finished Ezra and Nehemiah. And the burden of Israel to obey the laws of Moses, to rebuild the wall, all the sacrifices and all the duties of each member in the tribe of Israel. It is a lot. It is just, when I read through these books, it is a lot. And really, the entire purpose of life was to worship, be in relationship, and give to the Lord, and follow his commands. And there is nothing wrong with that if you're God. If you're human, I find it nearly impossible, which is why we needed Jesus. I am so thankful that Jesus came for a new covenant with our relationship with the Lord. So we're going to move on to Luke chapter 10. And again, it's just 25 through 41 today, okay? All right. Behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But he, desiring to justify himself, asked Jesus, "Who's my neighbor?" Jesus answered, "A certain man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who both stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. By chance, a certain priest was going down that way. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite, also when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he traveled, came where he was. When he saw him, he was moved with compassion, came to him, and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. He set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day, when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the host, and said to him, "Take care of him. Whatever you spend beyond that, I will repay you when I return." Now which of these 3 do you think seemed to be a neighbor to him who fell among the robbers? He said, "He who showed mercy on him." Then Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." As they went on their way, he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. She had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she came up to him and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister left me to serve alone? Ask her therefore to help me." Jesus answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken from her." So if we can just kind of move on back, it's fortunate we read those 2 books in the Old Testament to be educated in everything that the law required. Because when this man asked, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus did not repeat one part of the law of Moses. He came to change the covenant. It's right here, folks. Love and love. So, all right. Moving on to Psalm 18, 1 through 6. Now this was for the chief musician by David, the servant of Yahweh, who spoke to Yahweh the words of this song in the day that Yahweh delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, "I love you, Yahweh, my strength. Yahweh is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God, my rock, in whom I take refuge. My shield, the horn of my salvation, my high tower. I call on you, Yahweh, who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. The cords of death surrounded me. The floods of ungodliness made me afraid. The cords of Sheol were around me. The snares of death came on me. In my distress, I called on Yahweh, and I cried to my God. He heard my voice out of his temple. My cry before him came into his ears." Oh my goodness. Once again, he loves us. He hears us. He wants relationship with us. This was a good day. I'm so glad you were here. Please join me for tomorrow, which will be day 22. I hope you have a wonderful day today, and we're going to see you tomorrow. Bye.